Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Today, I am joined by the beautiful Anya Daly. How you doing today?
I'm great, thanks. How are you?
I am so good, and I'm so excited for this. A little bit about Anya. She is a Jersey-born actress and musician based in London, but of Irish heritage. She made her big screen debut, not big screen, but her screen debut, I'm sorry, in Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan, which is super rad. Um, you've gone on to star as recurring character in the Amazon original series Hanna. Also making your way to film the BAFTA-nominated feature Boiling Point. It's something I'm so excited about, and you guys cannot sleep on this one. The gothic horror film The Curse, which was also known as 8 for Silver there for a little bit before it got the name change. But that made its premiere at Sundance 2021, and it has rave reviews. I'm so excited for you guys to see this. Do not sleep on this one. So what was it like being a part of 8 for Silver, The Curse? What was that like for you?
It was honestly so amazing. I mean, like, obviously, you sort of expect to maybe do like one or two like horror things in your career, but it was never something that I like aimed for necessarily. It was just something like that came up and I was like, oh, that like seems fun. But then when I actually did it, even though most days when I went to work, I had to do like such horrible things, it was the funnest set experience I've ever had. And it just makes me want to do so many more horror movies because it was so much fun. Like, I loved it. I really loved it.
Well, I promise you, any horror that you do, we will be watching. And a good
Yeah.
way for you guys to stay up to date on that by following her on social media. And all her social media links are right down here in the description. So make sure you're clicking these social media links, giving her a follow, so that way you can keep up to date on her film career. But that's not the only career that she has, because even though being an actress is the main career goal, she's also trying to establish herself in the music industry with her indie synth pop sound. Do you have anywhere that people can listen to your music right now? Last I knew, you were still in a recording process.
Yeah, so I am actually recording. I'm sort of like halfway through recording an EP now, which is exciting. But I have two singles out at the moment, and you can just find them on like Spotify or Apple Music or like whatever streaming service, and it's just under my name, which is Anya Daly.
And the good thing is, you guys don't have to search for them because the links are down here in the description. So
And
make sure you're checking those out.
It'd be terrible if they had to search because no one can spell my name. So
Well, the good thing is, like I said, you can never have too many feathers in the cap. So, you're working as an actress, you're working as a musician, and I'm so proud of you for following these dreams that so many people wish to have, and you're actually succeeding in so many different things. And what made you realize that you wanted to be in film and music? Was there like that defining moment where you were like, this is it, this is what I want to do?
Do you know what? I have kind of a moment, I guess, but I knew I always did like acting and music growing up. Like, my brother's a musician, and I mean, there's no like actors in my family or anything, but I just loved it. Like, I don't really know how I got into it, whether it was like a friend of mine did it and I was like, ooh, that sounds fun, I'll do it. But I've just done it like ever since I was really young. And then when I was a teenager, I sort of left the acting a tiny bit, and I was like, oh, maybe I just want to focus on music. And so I moved over to London originally to do a music production course, because I thought, oh, maybe that's what I want to do. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then I started that, and I only got about like 2 months in, and I was like, this is not what I want to do. And I felt like I really missed acting. I was like, that's what I always wanted to do when I was little. And I feel like it was mainly like a lack of confidence, I think, why I didn't want to do it for a while. And then I sort of like gained that a bit more, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to try it. I'm just going to join, I don't know, something. So I was like auditioning for different drama schools and stuff. And then I found this part-time one, which you just go to a couple of nights a week, called Identity School of Acting here in London. And they actually have one in LA now. But at the time it was just in London. And I was like, oh yeah, I'll audition for that. And that's quite nice because it's part-time. So it's not too much of a massive commitment. And I hadn't done acting in a while, so I thought like that was a good thing. And then I got in, and it all sort of like, rolled from there. Yeah. So I guess whenever I dropped out of music school was my moment when I was like, I want to be an actor.
Well, I mean, and the good thing is you're still following that music dream too. So it's not like you totally snuffed that dream out completely.
No, definitely. But I think it was more like I definitely gained my confidence to start doing that later, because I've always been more sure in my like acting side of things. I guess just because I'm a bit more like experienced with it because I've done it more. But like music was more of a like hobby that I did very like, in my bedroom, like in the choir. And then just because of the people around me, they sort of like encouraged me to actually do something with it, which I always wanted to do, but like it's sometimes you need people to give you that little push to like actually do something, and then it's great.
For sure. And I'm so excited to see what, your career has in store, because as an actor, as a musician, you have so many avenues to be successful, and you're great at both. So I'm so excited to see where this train leads. So
Thank you.
yeah, and you said you never really anticipated being in a horror film, but you are now in one of the most anticipated horror films of the year. And
yes,
horror has to start somewhere for all of us, Anya. So I do want to go back to the past here for a minute. I want to talk about what got you started in the horror world, your first horror movie. And Anya, the first horror movie you watched was
The Thing.
What a great way to start your horror life. Not only is this movie genuinely scary with amazing practical effects, and you as a musician, this has one of the most underrated scores of all time.
Yeah, do you know,
John
it's
Carpenter's
really,
Thing.
I think it's so interesting, like sound wise as well, when you're watching, because when I knew I was doing this and I was like, oh yeah, like I want to talk about that. I watched it again this week because I was like, I haven't seen it in ages. And it really like stuck out to me how interesting the sound is, and like when they choose to use music and when they choose to use silence as well is really cool and like really effective.
Well, and the lack of score, or the adding of score, can really affect the movie. I mean, it can be a make or break moment for a film. Like you said, that absence of music, when you have that suspense building, and that just absence of everything. That's the perfect way to describe this movie too. So do you remember about how old you were the first time you had seen it?
So this might be a shock, because I actually my introduction to the world of horror was very late. Because when I was little and when I was growing up, I was terrified of anything horror, like, and anything gore as well, like even like, I don't know if you know about there's a show in England, it's not horror or anything, but it's called Casualty, and it's like a show that's been on for like years and years and years and years. It's kind of like a soap type thing, and it's based in a hospital, and I used to even be terrified of watching Casualty because of like, I didn't want to see the blood, like it freaked me out. And then it was only like in my late teens, early 20s that I just sort of like, I don't even know what happened, but it just sort of like switched, and I was suddenly super fine with all of that, and ended up really enjoying watching stuff like that. And I don't really know what it was, I guess just growing up or whatever, and knowing that like it's a movie, it's not real. So I would say that I was probably like 20 or 21 when I watched it. I know, which is crazy because it's quite late. And the thing is, like, I'd seen obviously like bits and pieces of other horror movies, but like nothing that I would even be able to sort of remember, because I was there like with my eyes shut, like just waiting for it to be over. But then this was like something that a friend of mine really liked. He liked these films, like the Thing, and the remake or prequel or sequel, whatever you like to call it. And he thought it was worth a watch. So that was that.
And it's such a great way to start because there's so many amazing scenes in this movie. Like I said, my top 3 practical effects films of all time will always be, in no order, American Werewolf in London, the original Nightmare on Elm Street, and John Carpenter's The Thing. When it comes to practical effects, I think those are the cream of the crop, in my opinion.
Yeah,
now,
definitely.
With so many different effective scenes in The Thing, which scene do you think it was that affected you the most?
I mean, it's hard because there's so many. There's so much you could talk about. But I think it's got to be the spider head moment for me, because it's just so like, I don't know, it's just so horrifying to watch, but you can't stop watching it. So like the moment, you know, when the guy's on, I can't remember the character's name, but when he's on the table and then the doc is there and he's like, he's not getting resuscitated, and then suddenly the hands fall into the stomach and you're like, oh my god, no, it's happening again. And then it just goes mental and his head falls off and the legs come out, and it's just quite the spectacle.
It really is
unforgettable.
It's one of those moments that is ingrained in horror history. I mean, even if you watch It Chapter 2 from 2019, 2020, that area, they have the scene where Stan's head is sitting there and it turns into the spider thing, you know, and Richie's like, oh, you gotta be fucking kidding me. You know, like, it totally pays homage. Yeah, it totally pays homage to The Thing. And I think it's amazing that a film can have that much of an influence still to this day, that people are still paying homage to that film. And with The Thing, when you think about this film, what is the first thing that pops into your head?
In terms of like scenes or just feelings or?
Yeah, anything. Like if let's say you and I were out at the bar having a drink and I was like, so Anya, The Thing.
Yeah.
What do you think of The Thing? What would be the first thing that pops into your head?
It's just like, it really is one of those classic, like on the edge of your seat films where you're like constantly just watching. And I know that is just a thing with horror in general, but I think it's so prevalent in this film in particular. And, you know, it's a cool setting for a horror film to be in. It's not your average, like in the house, scary monster. I guess that really.
No, and that all makes sense. And like you're talking about the anxiety and the suspense. I mean, the blood scene alone. I mean,
oh my god,
when they're doing the blood test and they're trying to figure out who it is. And
that was me. I was sitting on the couch literally this week watching it with my brother and my boyfriend, and that moment, because you still forget, and it's still like anticipation, and literally we all like jumped out of our seats as soon as he hits that little dish of blood. It's so terrifying.
It's such a great scene, and John Carpenter, the master of suspense, knew what he was doing when he was building to that scene. So I know we talked about which scene affected you the most, Anya, but what would you say your favorite scene from John Carpenter's The Thing would be?
Oh, that's a good question. I was tied. I have 2 answers actually. Okay. In terms of like horror and just like that kind of the fun aspect of the film, probably when you first see the like dog like exploding into this monster, because it's like that's the first time you really see like what's going on, and it's so fun to look at, even though it's horrible, but it's so fun to look at, and it just keeps going and keeps going, which I love. And then I also love the way it ends. I think that's a really good scene. I think it's really good, and nothing got to do with horror necessarily, but just a good movie scene between the 2 guys, where it's just like, you don't know what is going to go down, and then you don't know. Which is quite nice.
It's one of those scenes where you're like, are they going to build onto this? And then something you mentioned a little bit ago that I always bring up too, you have The Thing prequel, and it was not
Yeah.
set up as a prequel. You know, when we all
Yeah.
were going to see it, we were expecting a remake or a hard reboot.
Mm.
And it really, really surprised me with the fact that it was a prequel. Now,
Mm.
I talked earlier about American Werewolf in London, The Thing, and A Nightmare on Elm Street being my 3 favorite practical effect movies. Now, however, the sequel, American Werewolf in Paris, the remake of A Nightmare on Elm Street, and the prequel to The Thing have some of the worst CGI I've ever seen in my life.
I know.
I think that's the reason I'm not such a big fan of them. Now,
Yeah.
were you? I love the story of the Thing prequel. I think the story is great. I love the shock of finding out. But would you like to see John Carpenter's The Thing actually remade today? Not a prequel or sequel, but an actual remake of the film.
Do you know what? I actually don't think so, because I think part of the reason why it's great is the practical effects. Like, I think it just doesn't have the same, I don't know, I think it would feel like a different movie if it wasn't, if it wasn't that, and if it was very like CGI based. I mean, and then if they did it again with like practical effects, it's like, well, then what's the point? Like, they already did it and it was really good. You know, it would be interesting. I think it would be interesting to see like what they could do. But I think part of the reason because the story is quite simple, and I think it's the practical effects is what kind of really makes it great, I think.
I think that if they did remake it today, you know that Chris Pratt or The Rock would play Kurt Russell's character.
Exactly.
So I'm straight on that too. But
and can we just also can we also just talk about how cool Kurt Russell is in this film?
He's the man.
Like, he's the absolute man. And I just don't think you can get, I don't think you can get that again.
No, and this really was, because I mean, this itself is a remake from The Thing from Outer Space from the 50s. And I think this is, up there in one of the best remakes ever made. And one thing that you just mentioned is, me personally, now I don't push my views on anybody else. I'm not anti-remake, and I don't think remakes are inherently
bad. Neither am I.
Yeah, but I think that to me, the perfect remake is like Evil Dead 2013 or Child's Play 2019. When you take a movie and you remake it, I don't want to see the exact same thing modernized.
No, exactly.
I want you to take that original story and put twists on it to make it your own. I want your own skeleton in there. So if they redid The Thing, they would have to kind of make it its own story. But you're right. What's the point? The movie's perfect the way it is. Now maybe they could remake it someday and completely blow us all away. I mean, that's
exactly, and that would be great. And I do agree with you. I think that the only interesting and like worth it remake would be if they did like bring something new to it. So otherwise it's like, oh, that was so good, and now it's just a different thing.
Right. And that's what like, you have the Psycho remake with Vince Vaughn from the 90s, and everybody, shits on that remake. Oh, the remake's so bad. I'm like, you do know it's scene by scene what the original was, right? Like,
exactly.
You can't say I love Psycho, but I hate the remake. Like, it's
because
the same
film.
But would I say it's the most unnecessary remake of all time? Probably. No reason for it. But it did. One thing I love about it is it did introduce a new audience to Alfred Hitchcock, and maybe they went back and watched his version and saw how Anthony Perkins is one of the most handsome and best actors ever. So it absolutely, to me, does have its purpose in time. So now Anya, we talked about your first horror movie being The Thing and what that movie means to you, but now I want to go scream on you here for a second. My little buddy Ghostface has a question for you. What's your favorite scary movie, Anya? What is your favorite horror movie of all time?
Oh, that's hard. So, oh God, I have 2 answers, maybe. I don't know. So I don't even know, like, because I'm not very up to date with like what people consider as like good horror and what people consider as bad, and like what people like and what people don't like. But I know what I like.
Right. To me, there's no such thing as bad horror.
Yeah. So I do really, really enjoy the first Saw.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that the thing that I find most, which is fucking weird, but whatever. The thing that I find kind of fun about horror is sometimes the like intense gore, because it's so like, I don't know, I like things that kind of make you want to like say stuff out loud.
Yeah.
And I think that's, you know, that's one of those ones. And I also think it's kind of like, as the first one, it's kind of a fun concept
For
as
sure.
well. And I think it looks really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I think, which is what I like. And maybe also because it was like probably one of the other like around the first ones that I watched as well, and I was like more excited about, you know, watching stuff like that, because I'd never liked it before, and now I can suddenly watch it and not feel terrible. And then I do, in terms of like modern horror films, I do really like Hereditary. I thought that was really cool. And it's such a good story, I think, which is what makes that film. Is just that it's a really, even without the sort of like supernaturally like horror element, the story just as a plain like story is kind of scary, which I think makes for something good. So anything else you add on top of that is just going to be like even better.
Well, to me, that movie is like a family drama with just horror thrown into it.
Exactly, and which is
Toni
kind of
Collette
cool.
is a goddess. Like,
oh my god, I know.
Her acting in this whole movie is just like, every time I watch this movie, the acting all around, even, you know, Alex Winter, like when he's down, he's got his hand up in the stool,
honestly, that scene is like incredible. It's just so disturbing, but amazing.
Yeah. And I'm a huge fan of Hereditary as well. It's one of those films that I was so blessed to watch it unspoiled. And, you know, when we were in the theater, and when the scene happened with the pole, like that whole theater was just like, like all of us just sat there with our mouths open, like, what the hell just happened? No way. Like, I can't say enough great things about that film. So, Anya, I do want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day to come hang out with me and talk about horror.
Definitely.
So, we always end these with the same question. We're going to go back to The Thing, and what we're going to do is we're going to rank this on a skull count. However, we're not ranking it on production, score, acting, direction, nothing like that. What we're doing is strictly ranking this movie on how much it affected you. So 0 skulls being not effective, 5 being very effective. You can use half and quarter skulls anywhere in the middle. What would your ranking of John Carpenter's The Thing be?
I would say, I think I'm going to give it 7 skulls, I think, because I think I was very affected by it. I don't necessarily think as like, you know, concept or whatever, it's the most like groundbreaking movie.
Sure.
But I think it's great. I just think it's still so good. Like what it does give you is great. So yeah, I think I'll leave that extra skull room at the top for like something that's like some crazy concept, but yeah, I think 7 is a solid skull score.
And it's such a great film, like you said, top to bottom, the acting, everything. It is such a fun film to watch. So guys, we are at the end of the 3rd act now. The credits are about to roll, but before they do, make sure we're following these links down here, not only for social media, but make sure you're checking out the music. The EP will be coming soon. Is it EP or LP?
EP, yeah.
Okay. Yep, the EP will be coming soon. So if you're following on social media, you'll be able to stay up to date on when that drops. So, Anya, please don't go anywhere. I have a couple more questions for you. Yes. Everybody else, as always, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.